Alain Delon, The Shocking Dark Secrets of Europe's Sex Symbol Exposed. Alain Delon, the French guy once dubbed the most handsome man in the world, Europe's sex symbol, the one who made millions of women's hearts flutter with just a single glance. But behind that lethally charming exterior, there are hidden dark secrets, from a chaotic childhood, murder scandals, allegations of abusing women, to tearful family disputes after his death. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just the story of a movie star, but the journey of a deeply conflicted human being, where outer beauty conceals profound inner pain. Join me as we flip through the pages of his life. Feel the danger of fame, the emotion from losses, and the mystery that makes us wonder, is talent enough to erase mistakes? We'll dive deep into the details, with authentic quotes and analyses that will make you ponder. And according to the latest information from 2025, a year after he passed away, Delon's legacy continues to spark controversy, with commemorative ceremonies and new revelations about his life, even being excluded from the In Memoriam segment at the 2025 Oscars, outraging the public over the disregard for his cinematic legacy, as reported by outlets like Newsweek and Peppermint Films, emphasizing that despite the controversies, he remains an irreplaceable icon. First, let's rewind to the 1930s, a time when the world was anxiously awaiting the storm of World War II. Alain Fabien Maurice Marcel Delon was born on November 8, 1935, in a peaceful middle-class suburb south of Paris, France. His father was Fabien Delon, a small movie theater owner, and his mother was Edith Arnold, a pharmacist, but family life was far from serene on the surface. When Alain was just 4 years old, his parents divorced, a rare and scandalous event in the conservative French society of that time. He was sent to live with foster parents, whom he later recounted treated him well but lacked the warm familial affection. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, a little boy suddenly separated from his biological parents, wandering through strict Catholic boarding schools. That's where he began to rebel, fighting with friends, skipping classes, and getting expelled from one school after another. At age 14, Alain dropped out entirely, deciding to dive into real life by working at his stepfather's butcher shop. Let's pause for a moment so you can picture the scene. A teenage boy wielding a knife to slaughter meat, covered in blood, the pungent smell permeating the air. That's an image foreshadowing the violent, dangerous roles in his later film career. I think that childhood deprived of affection forged Delon's stubborn, devil-may-care personality, a trait that followed him throughout his life, bringing both success and tragedy. According to sources like Wikipedia and Britannica, Delon's childhood had even more heartbreaking details. He witnessed the death of his foster parents in an accident, which left him even more alone, drifting between families, nurturing inner pain that he later blamed for his isolation, as he shared in late interviews that, "My childhood was a series of losses, and that shaped the man I became today, a man always fighting the darkness within." In 1952, at age 17, Delon joined the French Navy, a decision likely stemming from a desire to escape the confined life in Paris. He was sent to Saigon, Vietnam, amid the fierce Indochina War. His military service wasn't a heroic journey like in the movies, but full of chaos and iron discipline. Delon spent much of his time in prison for disciplinary violations, from stealing a Jeep to behaviors he later recounted with a smirk. "I spent 11 months in prison during 4.5 years of service, shaved bald 5 times. Ladies and gentlemen, doesn't that send chills down your spine? He stole an army Jeep, drove around the city with friends, then plunged into the river, a dangerous, rebellious act that led to heavy punishment. Those months in prison, with a shaved head and isolation, probably etched into his mind a fear of constraints, while nurturing an inner strength to face a harsh world. After being discharged in 1956, Delon returned to Paris, living a simple but free life, eating cheap sausages, sometimes sleeping on the streets, befriending old soldiers. He once said, "I was content with that life. No money, but very happy." That was a period when the prospect of becoming a movie star seemed distant, but chance changed everything. According to Britannica and interviews like in the YouTube video Alain Delon, where mysteries meet intrigues from 2025, his time in Indochina left a deep mark, making Delon tougher, and he often referred to it as part of his warrior persona in later roles, like in Lost Command in 1966, where he played a French captain inspired by his own military experiences. And he once confessed that war taught me about survival, and I brought that into every role. In 1957, thanks to friends like Jean-Claude Brialy and Vera Belmont, Delon was invited to the Cannes Film Festival, a glamorous event where stars gathered. His striking good looks with smooth skin, sharp blue eyes, and a slender build caught the eye of director Yves Allégret. Allégret saw potential in this young man and invited him to star in his debut film, Quand la femme s'en mêle, Send a Woman When the Devil Fails. Delon initially refused. "I know nothing about acting, and it's never appealed to me." But eventually, he gave in. And the film premiered in 1957, achieving modest success, but opening the door to cinema. Soon after, Henry Wilson, the notorious Hollywood talent agent who discovered Rock Hudson and Tab Hunter, flew to Rome to audition Delon. Wilson offered a 7-year contract with producer David O. Selznick of Gone with the Wind, but Delon declined. Why? Some sources say due to advice from Allégret that he'd be more famous in France. Others rumor about an affair with Allégret's wife. I think this decision was full of mystery and risk, as it could have ended his fledgling career. But it showed Delon's independent instinct. He didn't want to be bound by the Hollywood system, choosing the European path to freely express himself. According to IMDb and sources like Vogue, Delon once said about this decision, "I wanted to stay in France to become a real star, not an American product." And this led to brief Hollywood films like The Black Tulip in 1964 and Once a Thief in 1965, but the experiences weren't successful, prompting him to return to Europe, where he felt freer, as he recounted in his autobiography that Hollywood is a dream, but Europe is my reality. Delon's career truly exploded in the 1960s, the golden era of French and Italian cinema, amid the Nouvelle Vague, new wave that was transforming the face of film. In 1958, he starred in Christine with Romy Schneider, the beautiful German actress, and their real-life romance became hot tabloid fodder. Delon considered Schneider the love of his life, but the relationship was stormy, ending in 1963. The next film, Fables Femmes, Women Are Weak, 1959, was a big success, solidifying his matinee idol status, but it was Plain Soleil, Purple Noon, 1960, by René Clément, that made Delon an international superstar. The film is based on Patricia Highsmith's novel, The Talented Mr. Ripley, about Tom Ripley, a sociopath drawn to Dickie Greenleaf's luxurious lifestyle, leading to murder and identity theft. Clément initially wanted Delon for the supporting role, but his wife advised, "That kid is Ripley." Delon embodied it brilliantly. Ripley is selfish, desperate, cunning, cruel, but also charming and ambitious. Highsmith praised, Delon did justice to the character. The film was a resounding success, and Delon's beauty, often shirtless on posters, became iconic. Scholars like Jeanette Vincendeau commented, Delon was one of the first male heroes to be undressed and worshipped on screen, representing the post-war European beauty ideal. According to Wikipedia and Rotten Tomatoes, this film earned him Hollywood offers, but he declined to focus on European projects, and it remains one of his best, with high critical scores, remade as The Talented Mr. Ripley in 1999 with Matt Damon. But many say Delon's version is the true classic. Following that was Rocco et ses frères, Rocco and His Brothers, 1960, by Luchino Visconti, where Delon played Rocco, a poor young man sacrificing for his family in urbanizing Milan. The role was the opposite of Ripley, saintly, refined, full of tragedy. Visconti, an openly gay man and close friend of Delon, helped him explore emotional depths. The film won the Silver Lion at Venice, cementing Delon's status as a cinematic force. In the years after, he collaborated with masters. And now, let's delve deeper into Delon's career to see why he was an icon. After Purple Noon, Delon continued with L'Eclisse by Antonioni, where he played Piero, a young stockbroker, materialistic but deeply lonely. The film explores alienation in modern society, and Delon delivered a nuanced performance, blending physical beauty with emotional depth. Antonioni once praised, "Delon has the ability to act through silence, rare in young stars," as quoted in sources like Reddit and Pinterest, highlighting how Delon used stillness to convey loneliness, a skill he learned from his prison time in Indochina, where silence was a way to survive. Then came The Leopard, Visconti's epic based on Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa's novel. Delon played Tancredi, the cunning Sicilian prince, with the famous line, "If we want everything to stay the same, everything must change." The film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes 1963, as confirmed by IMDb and Wikipedia. And critics say this role elevated Delon from a youth idol to a serious star capable of handling complex historical themes. Though he didn't win the Volpi Cup at Venice, as some sources mistakenly claim, the film was mainly honored at Cannes, and Delon once said that the role of Tancredi made him feel like a real aristocrat, even though my childhood was just that of a poor boy. In 1964, Delon tried Hollywood with Once a Thief, but the experience wasn't successful, leading him back to Europe. He said, "Hollywood is too commercial. I prefer the freedom of French films," according to IMDb. Then came Lost Command, 1966, a war film where he played a French captain inspired by his own Indochina experiences, as described by Rotten Tomatoes and Wikipedia. The movie tells of the Algerian War with Anthony Quinn co-starring, and Delon brought his military toughness to the role, making it one of his rare works on war themes, though he once admitted that war isn't heroic, it's hell, and I've lived through it. But the peak was the trilogy with Melville, Le Samouraï, Le Cercle Rouge, and Un Flic, 1972. In Le Samouraï, Delon is Jeff Costello, a professional assassin living alone in a dim apartment with a canary as his companion. The film is a neo-noir masterpiece, influencing John Woo's The Killer and Quentin Tarantino, according to Medium and Reddit. Melville said, "Delon is the modern samurai, cold but full of humanity." In Le Cercle Rouge, he played Corey, a thief fresh out of prison, planning a jewelry heist. The film has a 28-minute silent heist scene, showcasing Melville's minimalist style. Delon once shared, "Working with Melville was learning to act through silence," as quoted from sources like TV5 Monde, and this film became an icon of French gangster style, influencing modern directors like Guy Ritchie. In the 1970s, Delon diversified with La Piscine, 1969, a psychological romance with Romy Schneider, where he played Jean-Paul, a jealous man leading to tragedy. The film was a hit, and the chemistry between Delon and Schneider made audiences regret their real romance, according to Wikipedia and Rotten Tomatoes, especially when it was remade as A Bigger Splash in 2015 with Tilda Swinton. Then came Borsellino, 1970, with Jean-Paul Belmondo, a gangster film set in Marseille. A huge success, but leading to a profit dispute between the two stars. Delon sued Belmondo because his name wasn't placed first, and the case dragged on for 5 years, according to the New York Times and Wikipedia. According to Le Monde, this was an example of Delon's big ego, causing him to lose friends in the industry. But the film was still a hit, with a sequel, Borsellino & Co. in 1974, produced by Delon himself. In 1976, Mr. Klein by Joseph Losey was a profound film about the Holocaust, with Delon as Robert Klein, an art dealer mistaken for Jewish. The film won the César for Best Film, and Delon was nominated for Best Actor. As confirmed by IMDb, this movie refuted later anti-Semitic accusations against him, as Delon produced it himself and chose the sensitive topic. And he once said that, "I made this film to honor the victims, because I know the pain of discrimination." In the 1980s, 1990s, Delon gradually reduced lead roles, shifting to producing and TV films. Notre Histoire, 1984, by Bertrand Blier, earned Delon a César for Best Actor, playing Robert Avranches, an alcoholic man in a mysterious train encounter. The film explores loneliness, reflecting Delon's life, according to Wikipedia, and he dedicated the award to Romy Schneider, who had died 2 years earlier, a touching gesture that reminded the public of their legendary romance. In 1990, Nouvelle Vague by Godard was an abstract film, with Delon as Roger Lennox, a businessman who drowns and revives. Godard said, "Delon is the only star who could play God," as quoted from IMDb and French films, and this movie marked Delon's return to the Nouvelle Vague in middle age. In 1998, Une Chance sur Deux reunited Delon with Belmondo, but the film was a commercial failure, according to Allociné, though the chemistry between the two stars was still excellent, and it was one of Delon's last big-screen films. He retired from acting in 2000, only returning for TV like Frank Riva, 2003 to 2004, where he played a retired detective, and Le Lion, 2003, a TV film about a lion, according to IMDb and Plex, reflecting his love for animals, especially dogs, as he later requested to be buried with Lubo. Regarding his personal life, Delon had a famous romance with Romy Schneider, starting in 1958 on the set of Christine. They got engaged in 1959, becoming Europe's golden couple, but broke up in 1963 when Delon sent a letter from Mexico. "I've met Natalie, and we're getting married." Schneider was heartbroken, but they remained friends, and Delon arranged her funeral in 1982, according to Vogue and The Guardian, and he once said that Romy was my only love, and losing her was my greatest pain. With Nathalie Barthélemy, he married in 1964, had Anthony, but divorced in 1969 amid infidelity rumors, according to Wikipedia, and Nathalie later recounted that the marriage was full of jealousy, reflecting Delon's possessive nature. Mireille Darc was his long-term lover, 1968 to 1982, helping him through the Markovitch scandal. They split because Darc couldn't have children after heart surgery, according to Getty Images and Paris Select, but they stayed friends, and Darc once said that Alain was the man of my life, even if full of suffering. With Rosalie Van Bremen, he had Anouchka and Alain Fabien, but split in 2001, according to Wikipedia, and this relationship led to later child custody disputes. Delon was rumored with hundreds of women, including Nico, who bore Ari Boulogne, whom he didn't acknowledge, and Ratna Sari Dewey Sukarno. In 2023, his children accused Hiromi Rollin, his last companion, of abusing him, leading to lawsuits, according to BBC and Euronews, and the case extended into 2024 with allegations of violence and theft, further dividing the family. Politically, Delon supported de Gaulle, Giscard d'Estaing, and Fillon. He was close to Le Pen, saying in 2013, "The National Front is a patriotic party." According to France 24, he opposed same-sex marriage in 2013. "It's against nature," and supported the death penalty, according to CNN and DWW. These views sparked controversy, especially during Me Too, and he once expressed regret over the abolition of the death penalty, as in an interview with Le Figaro, where he defended his conservative views rooted in his difficult childhood. His health declined from 2019 with a stroke, living in Douchy. In 2022, Anthony revealed Delon considered euthanasia, but Alain Fabien denied it, according to Infobay and Marca. In 2024, family disputes. Anthony and Alain accused Anushka of hiding his illness, leading to lawsuits, according to The Guardian and Le Monde. Delon died on August 18, 2024, from lymphoma. The funeral was private, buried in Douchy, but the family refused to bury him with his dog Lubo, according to CNN and Connection France. A year later, in 2025, his legacy remains controversial. Commemorations at Cannes, but family lawsuits over a €300 million estate. Macron called him a French monument. Bardot, a huge void. According to Deadline, he was excluded from the in memoriam at the 2025 Oscars, causing outrage, according to Newsweek and Peppermint Films. From a personal perspective, I'm moved by Delon's legacy. He was handsome, talented, but lonely, compared to Paul Newman or Marlon Brando that you might love. Delon had a more fragile European vibe. The dark secrets stem from childhood trauma, but his talent is immortal. Ponder this. Ladies and gentlemen, what price does fame carry? Delon said, "I've done 3 things well: my job, stupidities, and my children. A life full of shocks, but memorable." Watch his films to feel it, and remember his legacy lives on, despite controversies, as in his other films like Texas Across the River, 1966, a humorous Western with Dean Martin, where Delon tried the American genre, or The Yellow Rolls-Royce, 1964, an anthology film with Rex Harrison, where he played an Italian playboy, according to IMDb, and Is Paris Burning, 1966. A war film with Kirk Douglas, where he played Jacques Chaban-Delmas, inspired by French history, or The Assassination of Trotsky, 1972. A political film with Richard Burton, where Delon played Gita, a mysterious role according to Rotten Tomatoes, and Red Sun, 1971. A Western with Charles Bronson and Toshiro Mifune, where Delon played Gotch, a charming villain, or Zorro, 1975. An adventure film where he played Zorro, a hit in Europe, according to Wikipedia, all contributing to his rich legacy, making us unable to forget such an icon. Exploring further, let's mention Delon's singing career, like the duet with Dalida in Paroles in 1973, a big hit in France, according to YouTube and Spotify, where his seductive voice blended with Dalida's singing, creating an immortal song about deceptive love. And he even had his own album like Alain Delon Chante in 1985, though not a professional singer, but it showed his versatility. In controversies, besides Markovitch, there are accusations from son Anthony about domestic violence, as in Anthony's 2019 autobiography, where he recounted his father beating his mother, according to Amazon and Goodreads, and Delon countered that it was fabrication to sell books, but it added to his complex image. Regarding son Ari Boulogne with Nico, Delon refused to acknowledge him, even though Ari died in 2023 from overdose, and the Delon family still denies it, according to The Guardian and Le Figaro, another tragedy in the family. In 2025, according to reports like Protothema and BGNS, Anushka is the beneficiary of a second will, hurting Anthony, and the lawsuit continues, with the estate including properties in Douchy and Geneva, estimated at €300 million, according to Wealth Briefing, and this inheritance dispute is compared to a Shakespearean tragedy, as described by BBC, with the children battling in French and Swiss courts. Moreover, Delon's legacy in 2025 includes retrospectives at Cannes and Venice, with screenings of Le Samouraï and Purple Noon, according to Variety and Hollywood Reporter, and a new documentary, Alain Delon, the enigmatic anti-hero, on Netflix, exploring his life and career with interviews from his children and friends. Like Brigitte Bardot, according to Deadline, he was also honored at the 2005 César Awards with a posthumous Lifetime Achievement Award, despite protests from Me Too groups over past controversies. According to Le Monde, in family feuds, Anushka sued her brothers for defamation, and Alain Fabien publicized emails from his father, showing Delon was disappointed with all his children. According to Euronews and Marca, regarding the dog Lubo, the family refused to euthanize it, and PETA commended the decision, according to CNN. But Delon once has said, "Lubo is my last companion," according to interviews, adding to the emotion about his loneliness in old age. In summary, Delon's life is a masterpiece full of contradictions, from rise to stardom to tragic fall, and in 2025, his legacy remains vibrant, reminding us of the beauty and darkness of human nature. Thank you for listening, and please share your thoughts on Delon in the comments below.